Já, komið sæl áhorfendur góðir. Velkomin í Samstöðina og þátturinn heitir Kona með höfuð. Við ætlum að fá til okkur hérna 2 góða gesti en þátturinn mun fara fram á ensku. Og ég ætla bara að snara mér yfir í það núna. Welcome to my 2 guests. I'm gonna make them introduce themselves. So I'm gonna give the word to Libia, our guest. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here talking to you both. So I'm Libiu Castro and I'm a visual artist. I'm working together with an Icelandic artist as well, Ólafur Ólafsson. We have been working together for 20 years now. And that's the reason why I'm very engaged in Icelandic art, Icelandic culture and Icelandic politics. Yeah, and at the moment I'm in Iceland. So we are actually living between Iceland, Spain, Berlin and Rotterdam.
Okay, so you are born in Spain?
I'm born in Spain, in Madrid, in the center.
Okay, and you've been an artist there as well?
I am an artist there as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and also we have been based in the Netherlands for 22 years now.
Okay.
And for 10 years in Berlin, and we are like really still like moving between. These are kind of the 4 bases for our life and work.
Wow. Great. Okay. And just tell me a little bit about why the Constitution, the new Constitution of Iceland. How did you learn about it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it would be difficult not to know about it, especially after the economic crash in 2008. Iceland was finally, not only because of its marvelous nature in the news internationally, but because of what was going on with the people in the country. And the Constitution and the Constitution process, the new Constitution, has been actually an example of an incredibly amazing democratic process for many countries outside of Iceland. And I'm not talking only about Europe, I'm talking also about Middle East, Arabic countries, South America. And so from that point of view, it would be difficult not to know about it. But then the point is also that our work, our artistic practice is contemporary art with socially and politically engaged issues. You know, so issues of what's going on in society today and what has been going on historically. And because Ólafur is Icelandic and I'm Spanish, we are also tackling issues in the countries where we are coming from and also where we live. And all these issues are again connected because the economic crash was not only in Iceland, it was in many places, and it brought up a critical uprise and a politicization of many people around the world, not only in Iceland. We had in Spain the indignados, you know, also. And at that time, I remember we were all looking at Iceland because of what was happening here, because of the national assemblies, because of the rewriting of the new constitution, because how it was being made, you know, all this. So it's like, and those issues are the issues that my heart ticks for in my work, in my artwork. So that's the reason.
And what you've been doing is you have been, I can see you're wearing a very nice t-shirt. So is this part of your art?
Yeah, this is part of the art.
Okay.
It's actually part of this project, which is supporting the new constitution and supporting the demands for its implementation and for the process to go on.
Okay.
It simply has been blocked, and it has been blocked almost for a decade now, which is a very serious thing. So thinking of civil engagement and civil politics, not party politics, you know, politics of the people. This is a very serious issue.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But what else have you been doing about the Constitution in your arts?
So actually, this is like the project that reflects on the Constitution and the history of the Constitution in Iceland starts before the economic crash for Ólafur and me. And that was because we were at some point, reflecting on, okay, if we are making work that is related to social and political issues, and from out of the art, it is called also social sculpture. So you look at society as a sculptural creation as well. How is it that we don't know that much about the Icelandic constitution, the actual one, the one that is in place now still? So let's say the old constitution. And then we start, many of our works are for us an instrument to learn about the world around us. And through the artworks reflect on it, but also using them as an instrument to really get to know what is happening. And so the first piece we did on the Constitution was on the actual Constitution. It was also a musical performance because we thought it was very much about making through art public the content of that Constitution. And in that case, it was very much about getting to know the history of it and how it was connected to the moment of independence in Iceland, how it was connected to the relationship with Denmark as being a by-colony of Denmark, and how let's say the older, the constitution before that, which was still a monarchic constitution, was the example, almost like in many parts of the structure, a copy-paste example for the new Icelandic nation to take on. And we know from the history that the idea was like it had to be done quick, and they still wanted to write a new constitution, and that never happens. And then we find in the history several moments when that is being tried to write it again, but it's actually when it actually really happens with the need and the force of the people to want to change it. So people being conscious of the importance of it is with the crisis of 2008. And at that moment we were finishing actually the first one. When the crisis comes, we are finishing the first one. We managed to make a collaboration with the national television because we want the musical performance to be aired on television, to be broadcast on television. And we are also trying it to make, I mean, at that point, we are also going to the Venice Biennial, so we get enough support for that from the television to be able to do it with them. And we try to coincide the moment when the performance is being broadcast with the moment when the National Assembly, which has become already the National Council, starts to write the new one, because we think people need to know how important it is to change the content and the ways of the old one. So, and that's how we go into the process of the new one. And then later on, of course, like the pots and pans revolution, all the critical moment that changed the government, and the amazing process of the new writing. And then we start to think we need to work with the new one. But then the new one is so different because it's not reflecting critically on the old one, but it's actually working for it also. Mm. So, and that is artistically is not only reflecting, but using the art as useful for the movement and the people.
Yeah. What about the musical? Has it been shown anywhere?
Yeah, it actually was like the performance of the new constitution was last Saturday. It was a durational performance. We made an installation in the courtyard of the Reykjavik Art Museum, which was also supporting the work. And we invited, it has been a collective project. It was the idea from the beginning to do it collectively, because we thought it was reflecting also the dialogue in the Constitutional Council, how they were working together. It was not just one clerk, sorry, not clerk, but one official writing it, but it was just like people from society, from all levels of society, different genders, different backgrounds. So we thought we need that in the music. We need to make it really inclusive. So it has to be an authorship that is a collective authorship. And the work was performed now for the first time just before, and being super busy with the safety of COVID, but just before the last restrictions on Saturday. And maybe I have to say something there, because I mean, we have been, of course, suffering like everybody else from the COVID restrictions and from the danger of it. So we were also having issues of how to advertise it enough. We didn't know, can we let it go through now? Can we do it? Can we not do it? We had a lot of discussions within the magic team, because we call it a magic team now, the whole collective. We had discussions with Kata, with the Constitutional Association. Do we have to do it now? Don't we have to do it now? So, but at the end, we decided with the museum and the festival, we do it now. We do it with all the restrictions at place. We are really taking care of the safety. And we also do the walk, because it's very important to understand that one thing is the musical performance, which is like, I mean it, with amazing artists and amazing composers. And the other thing is, like, we wanted to take the piece outside to the street, because and that was kind of the second part of the musical performance, which was the walk with everybody that could come, audiences, public, activists, performers, everybody together, because it's a do it together piece. So we were going with the banners that are actually also paintings to the streets, occupying the streets. And that all is also part of the video documentary musical that we are working on now, and end up at Oosterwelle, at the square. And yeah, now we are here still working on it, because now all these different pieces, which makes this tapestry of music and content of the Constitution, because it's basically putting music to what has been written, so that people know, okay, what is it that has been written also? You know, what are we really going for, which I think is super important. There are I don't know, I could go endless about like the implications of that. The implications also today with the environmental movement, the implications also today with like the fourth wave of feminism, the implications also today with Black Lives Matters and diversity and inclusion. So it's like so much that is in the content, you know.
Okay. Who was the composer?
There are many composers. I mean, there are Icelandic composers and there are foreign composers as well, people that are coming and going or that are not living here. So we have many different types of composers. So we have new music and classical contemporary music. So we have, for example, Victor Orre, which has been making mind-blowing work, I find. You know, like we have Auke, we have Leilo, which is again, you know, like a pop, indie, and trovador. We have so some Hordu Torvar, we have Kau, we have Stellan, we have Tyler Friedman. So Stellan is Italian, Tyler Friedman is American, living in Berlin. I mean, there is a very long list of very good and amazing composers and performers, composers coming together, sometimes really in dialogue working together, sometimes making different pieces that are stitched in the piece. And all these works are being also mastered now, and they will come out as entire piece and on their own.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Katrín,
yes.
Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Katrínu Oddsdóttir, and I was one of the 25 people who were participating in writing the new constitution, which, like Libiu explained, was written in a very democratic way. So it was participation project where people could actually put in their own ideas and comment on what we were doing and so on. And this is why it has become so popular among like foreign academics and foreign, you know, people of many different thoughts, because this is the first time in history that a constitution has been written like that the people have actually been able to participate in writing their own constitution. And people feel this is like brave and new, but if you think about it philosophically, this should be self-evident, because we are always trying to express the truth of the statement that the constituent power lies with the people, you know, that all powers that our power holder have every day originally come from us, right? So if we don't write our foundational law ourselves, then it becomes very weird, because the people who are supposed to be taking care of our society are putting their own rules on how they can manage the power that we give them. And this is a paradox. So the Icelandic example that everybody thought was so extremely new and avant-garde, I think in time will become the normal way of writing a constitution, because it's the fairest way to write it. And because we have technology and we have so many people who are educated and clever and who can participate, why should we exclude them? I mean, every voice should matter in this. So I am a lawyer also, and I have been working mostly in human rights, and now I'm doing a PhD and stuff like that. But I've been mostly sort of active as an activist in the last years, trying to fight for the new constitution to be ratified. And therefore, I've been fighting with people like Libiu and Ólafur and people from all different aspects of society to try to get this done, because this is a task that Iceland must finish if it's supposed to be a sovereign nation, if we're supposed to be an independent nation, and if we're supposed to be a proud nation. We must finish this.
And a democratic
nation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you've been leading a group of women that have been fighting for the constitution.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm just one of many who participates in this thing called Association of Women for the New Constitution, which basically is a Facebook group which was established by a woman called Árni and Árni Elinborg. And what it does is it allows women to have a place somewhere in society to fight this battle through the sort of power of uniting amongst each other. And I myself, I was brought up in Kvennalisten. My mom was in that from the beginning. And I know that this sort of united stand of women can have really much effect, because we sometimes allow ourselves to see things with a more sort of humorous way. And we're used to being a very big minority and being sort of not listened to, but still persisting. So there's a special type of energy that sometimes exists within all women groups. And this group really sort of got wings then. Now we have like 16,500 women in the group. And compared to how many women there live in Iceland, that's a huge part of all the women that have the right to vote. So it's not like women in Iceland don't give a damn about this. They just maybe have to lead their lives normally and don't have time to spend a lot of energy on this matter. But I think it's becoming more and more clear with every day that there are so many people in Iceland who actually care about this and who want to finish this and who will fight for this, that it will not be ignored forever. So the women is a great fun. It's just a way to unite and have fun and to maybe put a new flavor to the fight, which is more about maybe love and sense of humor and sticking together than sort of this anger and resentment that you sometimes feel over the fact that the national referendum has not been listened to.
And last Saturday, you've been doing something else with this women group, not just this.
Yes, we've been doing a lot. I mean, what happens in the women's group and what I like most about it is that it's very organic. A woman will wake up one day and think, why don't we do this? And she'll put it on the group, and somehow it'll just then happen. So we've had a lot of ideas that have taken wings through the women's group. For example, social media campaigns where women have been putting photos of themselves searching everywhere for the new constitution with the hashtag hvar, basically asking, where is it? I mean, we already voted on it, so where is it? In my toilet? No, is it in your closet? And then we have also, we have done like, we did a small project about a year ago, or maybe a little bit more, where we said, okay, if you want to put a picture of yourself for the new constitution, you can do it here. I posted this little post on the group, and I suspected there would be maybe 30 women or something, but it ended up in more than 3,000 photos of women who wanted to put their face towards the fight for the new constitution. So we ended up blasting those faces on walls in the street, and also it was used for a beautiful performance celebrating the 100th year anniversary of our sovereignty in Harpa, where all the faces of the women were covering the walls in Eldborg, where all the power holders were sitting, and even the Danish queen looking at it, and children were reading the preamble. And so we had those glorious moments, which basically is the fuel for people like me to continue fighting. That it actually, when you, and like with the art performance Ólafur and Libiu did on the weekend, I mean, this is just heart fuel for us, where I saw the end of the performance where they were finishing the musical of singing the whole new constitution with all those amazing performers, and it changed into them being people and just citizens, and then taking to the street and then putting this massive banner outside Parliament building asking the new constitution, please. It's like, it's no way of describing how that feels for us who have been so long trying to battle this. It just feels like our words and our claims are being met with some sort of a rainbow of colors we could never ever provide only by fighting through verbal means. So it's like it's amazingly beautiful and important for the battle.
Okay, thank you. But tell me then, what do you think will have to change? I mean, many people know maybe about the story of the Constitution, the new Constitution, but what do they not know? Is there something that people do not know?
Well, I think people do not know exactly what's in it. I think not that many people have gone through the trouble of actually reading it and trying to understand it. Slowly, we're trying to increase the knowledge people have of what is actually the content of the document, you know. How is it going to change Iceland, and why should we really fight for it? I mean, the first reason is obvious, that you don't do a national referendum and then ignore the outcome and then want to call yourself a democratic nation. You just can't do that. It doesn't go together. It's a paradox. So that is a reason enough for many people. But then when you start looking into the new constitution and figuring out how it's going to change our society, I find that people are just blown away when they start really analyzing it. Because what we have is that we have a nation here that knows about many things that have to be corrected for us to be able to continue towards the future. But the only means that we have to change things is through political parties every 4 years or so. And the political parties might say one thing we agree with, but another thing we don't agree with. So how are we supposed to express our democratic will through this old-fashioned system with no chance of actually making a decision on certain issues, you know? So the new constitution changes that, for example. It provides a possibility for 10% of the voters to say to Parliament, okay, listen, this legislation that you're doing, we want to vote on that. And that is not only important because people can vote on it, it's mostly important because it's going to give the Parliament the sense of being watched, which makes them take better care of how it actually makes the law and how it actually should not just override the minority because it can. And it makes it sort of likely for them to listen better and fight less. So this is one reason. I could name you like 10 reasons now. I don't know how much time we have, but it's about protecting our nature. It's about getting the fair share of the natural resources. We're a very rich country, but there are really few families that are making like way bigger portions of the profits from our, for example, fisheries than the public. And we all know this is not fair, but we can't change it through our parliament. God knows we've tried. So we need to take the power as the stjórnarskrá, as the constitutional power, and tell our parliament, listen, this is where we're going to draw the line in the sand. This is the future Iceland that we're going to have. And it was a miracle that we managed to write this new constitution after the crash. And we cannot allow this miracle to just slip away. So that's why we need to read the new constitution, all of us, and understand what's in it and why we want to fight for it. We want to be able to vote for people, not only parties. We want to be able to get a more transparent administration. We want to be able to get all those things that are in there because these things were written in a moment of clarity. Because after the crash, I don't know if you remember, but after the crash, people woke up, you know, and for some months or maybe years, we were actually really thinking about what society was like and what it should be like. And this doesn't happen that many times. This is sort of a moment where a lot of the people actually are awake at the same time and are full of passion of actually achieving a better reality for them and their kids. And we got the chance of actually rewriting our social contract during a moment of clarity like that. And we can't afford to letting that slip away.
What do you say, Libiu?
Totally agreeing with that. Very, very important. Very, very important for the whole planet, actually, not only for Iceland, in the sense that what Katrín was just mentioning about the rights of nature, rights for nature, and also the natural resources is something that is intrinsically connected in the way and in the way of living we have, the economic system we have, and the rights of the planet and people. So it's not difficult to understand that if we are talking about the rights of nature and protecting nature, which is, I mean, the crisis of COVID is nothing compared to the crisis that is amounting to come with the climate change.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like you only need to start to read the reports of the scientists, to start to read the reports of the UN, which are already, you know, in the middle of society. It's not like some radicals that have been saying it for a much longer time, you know, but now it's like in front of us. I mean, you can look at Attenborough, which is also like a middle of society guy, you know, it's not some very special radical person alarming us like 60 years ago, like some people were already doing. But it's so important to change our economic ways and to change politics to give nature the protection it needs, but also to have the natural resources not in the hands of a couple of families. And that's not only for Iceland like that, that's for the whole planet. So if you see Iceland as a country that is in a way exemplary because it's so small that you can see all these things coming together much easier. The same you can see like when the uprising came of people, you could see it so clearly how it was working, how people got in that moment of crisis, the politicization needed to be conscious of, hey, it's also our responsibility to make it better. So it is us that have to create the instruments to make our society more democratic so that this doesn't happen again and again and again. So the new constitution is an outcome of that. So, I mean, it's so important to also understand why are forces blocking it and which forces are that when you talk politically. Who are the people, because we are all people, and who are the organizations that are against a constitution that has been in a public referendum and has been voted for and is being blocked to the extreme that they have silenced the process already in historic terms, like, you know, in all these years, just like trying to silence it in such a way that people forget what happened and what they did. And so that new generations have it difficult to plug into that knowledge. The good thing though is there is a new generation coming now that is actually really plugging in, because they are going to face really huge issues, because the environmental issue is huge. So.
Katrín, will you come in?
Yeah, I just want to second that. I mean, I think what we're trying to do, what Libiu was explaining really well, is to get fundamental changes rather than those small victories that will then be undone by the political opponent next year. You know, we can't afford to lose the time anymore. I mean, we are still using a system, political system, that was built for when people took horses to parliament because they were living, so far away from each other, and it took so long. And they had no way of communicating between those 4 years when the horse rode to parliament. This is the system we still have. And isn't that insane? I'm a huge fan of representative democracy. I want somebody else to work for me in figuring out how to control this country and the world. However, I want them to understand that I am just giving them the power they have as a loan. They do not own them, and they're not superior to me or any other citizen in this country. And they cannot treat us like we don't matter. I mean, look at Brexit, a referendum that was also non-legally binding, a referendum that was much closer in the outcome, a referendum where the parliament did not agree with the outcome. They would never have dared to ignore it, because they understand that the democracy means that you do have to listen. You cannot ask me a question and expect me to participate by going somewhere and voting, and then behave like that's no problem if you don't respect the outcome. But still, you should be respected when you're voted for as a parliamentarian by the same voters. I mean, the paradox here is so unbelievably big that it is actually quite amazing, like Libiu points out, that they've been able to actually silence this big issue and try to keep it down for so long. Now we have a new momentum because so many people are waking up just thinking, hang on, this is horrible. And this is specifically young people that will later be the people who have to face all the catastrophical consequences of how we're doing things. And there's absolutely no way they will live with this. I mean, this is a whole new generation of fighters that will never ever rest until we get this justice done. So I mean, trying to silence this is trying to keep a lid on a boiling water in a saucepan. It's just impossible. Either you get burnt or you will have to lift it. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's sort of like they're keeping democracy hostage.
Yeah.
Okay. Libiu, what do you think? What can we do?
Yeah, I think so, and that is not new. That has happened in history many times, but the good news is that we have changed many things for the better also through history. So, and that people have been able to change these things because partly, and I'm going to say partly, because we are also talking about like you know, a world that is huge in differences, huge in historical processes. So we are at the same time not all in the same place. But I mean, yeah, it is already what, 140 years in a way since, and we are now talking about like the European area, you know, that we have fought for our civil rights, for human rights, for workers' rights, for women's rights, you know, and animals and nature. Sorry, we are late. So all this, you know, and to actually create this governmental structures that allow to make the whole society more democratic, not just for that moment, but for the next ones that are born in that system and already, you know, have that consciousness for the next step is super important. You know, how are we going to do farming? How are we going to give back to the planet biodiversity, that things start to get balanced again? These are huge changes. And you can only do these changes if everybody is conscious of it. And people can only be conscious if there is justice been done. If people have rights, if all have rights.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this is a question of whether we want to look at the big picture or try to fix small things. And we only have one planet, so it makes very little sense to try to do small fixes. You know, we do need a whole change of mentality. And that's what I think the young people are calling for. They're calling for a whole new way of thinking, and they're calling for that to happen now. But it's very hard to ask an old dog to learn to sit, you know. And they have middle-aged parliament that has always done things in the same way, and I just don't think they understand the claim that the younger people are making of the radical change they want. In the new constitution, we have a natural protection article that is the strongest that has ever been written in Icelandic and maybe in more languages, because it explicitly speaks about the right of nature. It doesn't just say we have the right to treat nature in that way. It says nature has a specific right also. This is not something we came up with. This is an Ecuadorian idea of Pachamama, of nature actually being a rights holder. And I think this is the switch that has to happen in the way we think about nature for us to be able to proceed and get some of our goals to save this species and the planet. It sounds very dramatical when we speak like this, like we're Nostradamus or something, but it basically is like that. It's the scientific evidence that we have. It's the knowledge among the people who live here at the moment and who feel the earth changing very fast, and trying to just, you know, imagine it'll go away. It's just going to make it even worse for those who are small today. And it's really unfair because we are grown-ups today, you know?
Yeah, but also it's tremendously unfair for millions of people that have already problems to eat. Yeah. It's tremendously unfair for like millions of species that are disappearing. It's like,
Yeah. Also, like I teach like a course in Reykjavik University called Refugee Law, and I'm teaching the law students of the future about the laws that we have in regards to refugees and asylum seekers, right? And sometimes when I'm teaching this, I'm thinking, oh my God, what I'm saying is so outdated already, because people in the next years to come are going to be fleeing mostly because of the changes that nature is going to perform on their habitats, and we have no way of protecting them.
They are already.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we don't start thinking globally and make Iceland some sort of an example of what can be done, at least then we're not even contributing, you know. I'm not saying that we can actually fix all this. I mean, it sounds very difficult, but I'm at least saying we can provide some sort of a ray of hope that people can actually participate in making democracy better and actually making some sort of a future music for their citizens, you know, and showing that we can do things differently, because people everywhere in the world face the same problems as us. They are completely filled up with sort of being pissed off over democracy, the way it works. So they stop showing up and they stop voting. And then the power again becomes in the hands of the few. And this is not going to make any solutions happen either. So if we in Iceland can say, okay, at least this was possible in a small nation to do this, to make a new constitution that would correct a lot of the unfairness that the society was facing and get it ratified, even though the system was resisting, then maybe other nations will think, okay, we will be able to do it also. So I mean, that is also important, I think, that I'm not saying we can be the greatest or the best at all, we are not, but we at least did this, and now we have to finish it to be able to at least be proud of what we have done and to provide a little bit of hope.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think also there, like to look at it from out of an internationalist perspective, and I say internationalist meaning really like coming from like that concept, internationalist, and that is because the silencing of that process here is also the silencing that has been in the Arab region that had the Arab Spring. This is something to really understand from that perspective. And it's also the silencing that has been going on in the Mediterranean countries. We had a moment after the economic crash that was amazing in terms of consciousness and how people became brave, because I mean, when you become conscious, you also get the strength to put up, let's say, the force and the mind and the body to fight for things that have been wrong for a long time. And it's not easy to dare to put up that kind of strength, because there is violence also at the other side. That's the reason why things are not changing. It's not like they are not changing because they just don't change. No, they don't change because there are tremendous interests there, political and economic, that don't want the things to change because they are convenient for the status quo. So the moment people go to the streets is, of course, because the pain has become very big, and that happens in times of crisis. So then people say, okay, if I have to lose something for this, it's the moment to do it, because I have been already in that kind of situation for a very long time, and that has brought us to this crisis. So, and I think it's very important to see that that's why it is like super important to fight and demand the change of the constitution still and ongoing, because that's an historic process that happened in many places, and in many places that was repressed and that has been repressed. So actually it's not only an example to look at, but it's an example to go together in conjunction with other movements and people that are still fighting and have not forgotten in other places.
Yeah.
So Katrín, are you ready to go global?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to just become part of anything that will try to find solutions.
That's what I'm trying to say, because there are also people fighting now. I mean, yeah. I think the connection is so important.
Yeah, and I mean, after we did this in the 2011, I was asked to talk all over the world about this new Icelandic constitution. I've been speaking in Harvard and Princeton and Yale and Berkeley and in many, many nations about this, because this is, like I'm trying to explain, a ray of hope. It provides a proof that democracy can be handled differently, you know. And it always is, of course, very frustrating to then have to end the story about, and then Parliament did nothing. It's almost like giving people huge hope and then just like crashing it at the same occasion, you know. But I think I remember when like the moment when which Libya is referring to, when we had the Occupy movement, when we had the Indignados, when we had the Arab Spring, and everything was happening at the same time. It was almost like this sort of global constitutional moment where we felt a little bit like we were almost at the verge of getting like huge changes in the space of very short time, as we have done before in history. Let's remember that, you know. Mm-hmm. So it didn't work. But then again, we are always looking at, I always feel we're going very slow, you know, and I'm not very patient. But then if you look at it, what sort of time spectrum are we looking at? And how long does it normally take to fight a battle like this one? We're in a teenage stage, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
But the difference is that now we have this knowledge about the state of our planet, and it makes time much more precious. I don't feel like I can leave this fight to my kids and just say, well, you know, let's see if they can do it. You know, it doesn't feel like that anymore because of the environmental threat we also are facing. And that's why maybe it sounds a little bit hippie and dreamy, but I think what has to happen is that there has to be some sort of a global awakening with people who are willing to change and to fight for change and to fight for different mentality altogether, you know. And when I say fight, I'm not talking about the conventional arguing that politicians do. It doesn't make any sense anymore. We're having to find new ways to express and change things than through this verbal wrestling that just leaves everybody exhausted, you know. And that's why also I think it's so important that the president, Libia and Ólafur, have put now with artistic performance. And I know it's inspired a lot of artists here in Iceland, and hopefully it will inspire more people everywhere else.
Yeah, it will travel around. And there are also, as I say, there are also other artists in other places doing similar things. So this is a good thing.
Yeah. But at least to me, it felt like there was a whole new note struck in the fight for this constitution, because just the scale of it and the size of it and the intensity of it was something that we have not seen before here, and we're not used to. I mean, I have twice gone to the Biennale in Venice, and this is something you would see there. Obviously, you've gone, but this is like an installation of a scale that we just aren't used to, you know. So I think it just gives so much credit to the thing we're trying to achieve, putting all this effort into it, because it is of such importance what we're trying to do here, that it should actually deserve a piece like this. But it still feels like you feel like almost paralyzed by humbleness when you see it, because you're like, oh my God, they're saying the same as us, but in this incredible way, you know, what can I, like the cells of the body are just like singing or something. So I think this is a tone that I'm talking about, a sort of a harmony and creativity that needs to be the uniting force if we're going to try to really change the way the whole global political situation is playing, you know. And it's very hard to explain, but it's something like that that's going to, I think, pull people towards the table, not the normal argumentative politics that we've seen in at least my lifetime.
So what about the musical? Are we going to be able to see it again, or?
Yes, I hope so. Mm-hmm. I mean, now we are in COVID times, so it has been even very difficult to bring it this far, and I'm very happy that we could. And I'm very happy that we can also make the video work, you know, because that can travel too. But I mean,
that will be shown on RÚV, right?
Yes, that will be shown on RÚV.
Okay.
And it will be. And I wanted to say it's also very important that we understand that the piece is also ending up in the art context as an exhibition as well. So many other works will come in, and that it expand also to become a symposium. Because I think it's very important also to understand that, and I think this goes together with what Kata was talking about, like the different ways to be civically engaged and engaged politically, and from out of the art and from out of the, let's say, the contemporary art context, there is a big development towards more and more interdisciplinarity and more collectives. I mean, because we need that. We need to understand, not only transform things into something, but also understand things together from out of different points of view and disciplines. And in that respect, it is true that this is a very new experiment, not only in Iceland, but in general. I mean, of course, there are more artists, and we know more artists internationally working in this direction, but this is really at the front of these developments as well, where art and activism comes together. Of course, like we have a long history of, like, you know, if you go to the Russian constructivist and the Dadaists and like the pre-modernist artistic practices, you know, when modernism didn't come with the claim of total autonomy of the arts. And then what we see in the 70s and 60s, also in South America, incredible experiments of visual arts and music and performative arts that go together with social movements. And this is happening again, and it's happening strongly, and since the last decade. And I think, yeah, we are actually witnessing something that we don't understand totally, all of us as well. And that's very hopeful, the same as it is very hopeful to think that indeed, like, this fight for those changes is long from one point of view, but it's actually very short. So yeah, I'm actually very hopeful also about being able to tick the clock back to another moment in relation to nature and the climate, because we have to. We cannot not do that.
Right.
But you will also, the exhibition will also travel around Iceland, Libya, right? It's going to be, yeah.
Yes,
great.
I will say the date. This is important. The exhibition will open the 21st of November if COVID doesn't change again the dates. The video work will be shown and broadcast on TV also in November, probably. That's the idea that goes together with the show. Okay. The symposium will be in February, and there we want to work together with the Constitutional Association. The University of the Arts and the university are working with us, and there are speakers coming from abroad, also from different disciplines. And all the masterings of the different parts of the entire composition are going to be coming out thing, which is what Kata was mentioning before. And I think art has an amazing way of mediating things like this, because the content becomes itself, but it also becomes something else. It gives you freedom to look at it, you know, like from a critical perspective, for a humorous perspective, for a satirical perspective. So you get the knowledge of it, but you also get the freedom to look at it, you know, in different ways yourself. So I think,
it can reach more people.
Exactly. It can reach many more people. It also becomes much more democratic, and that it is visual arts and music and activism together as well.
So tell me about the Constitution. So you have you've been collecting underskriften.
Yes, we are collecting signatures. We are.
Thank you.
We are collecting underskrifter at the moment, and we are actually quite amazed, because I will just share this. But I had this meeting with a guy who is a very clever man who has a lot of power in society, maybe about 6 weeks ago. And he said he doesn't really believe in our fight very much, I think. And he said, so you're collecting these signatures, right? And I said, yes. So what, you have 6,000 or something? And I said, no, we have 8,000, but it's going well now. He says, okay, what's your plan? I said, and I was a little bit shy, I said, yeah, we're trying to get 25,000 because that's what we need according to the new constitution to actually put the legislation forward in Alþingi. So it shows really clearly that we are being blocked as voters, because if we had the new constitution, it would be enough to actually put the new constitution to Alþingi, you know. And he was like, you will never get it. And I was like, oh. And he said, yes, because these things work like that, Kata. If you don't get it in the beginning, it's not going to come, okay? So just don't expect it. And I have never had such a fuel to my, my battle. I was like, okay, you know. And now, of course, we have proceeded that goal, and we have a new goal. We have now, maybe in these words, we have reached we are just missing 3 signatures from 27,000. And these are not just change.org signatures. These are voters. They are all 80 years old. Yeah, and they have all listed through their rafræn skilríki and electrical, you have to
identification. Yeah.
And so you actually have to bother to put your name on this list. It's not like any other list you just click and share, and no, it's like a real bother. And some people aren't even able to put their names on the list, unfortunately, because they don't have this electrical stuff. So we will try to figure out that. But it's beautiful. It provides such hope, because if we manage to reach 30,000, which is our new goal, before the 19th of October, which is the final day of the list, we will be able to hand Alþingi the list with all those names on the birthday of the national referendum, which is the 20th of October. And we can come together, hopefully, if COVID allows, outside the parliament and sing the birthday song for the national referendum and be joyful, because we do have a result of a national referendum. And nobody will ever block that from being the truth one day, you know. And this is just one step in a marathon, but we will never give up. So please, if anybody is listening, will you please go to nýrri.is, which means new constitution, nýrri.is, nýrstjórnarskrá.is, and put your name on the list.
Thank you. So any last words, Libiu?
Yeah,
okay.
I just, in a way, maybe wanted to mention more of the artists and composers. I wanted to say that there are amazing pieces from Þórunn Greta. She wrote, for example, we were talking about it, the articles 33 and 34 on nature and the natural resources. There are amazing pieces from Karolína Eiríksdóttir. There are amazing pieces from, I think I mentioned before, the preamble of Leilo. The preamble of Leilo is just... I think it's going to be a mega hit. It's just amazing. There are Kaput was playing. Kaput is, you know, such a high quality artist for contemporary classical music and avant-garde experiments on classical music. Composers like Auke, I think I mentioned it. Composers like Akalu, coming from Greenland. So these are people that are coming from abroad, and you share a history, a common history with Greenlandic people. So this was very, very important, the same as we are working with him and with them in other things up there. You know, he was coming here and he make a message. There is new musical bands that compose music. Groa was in it, and Quadriflog was in it. I can go on saying names, but I think it's very important also to understand how artists mean it also in the piece. The same artists are also citizens. So how they mean it and how they go into this experiment, thinking of it as a not. And we are not talking about some kind of propaganda. This is really working with the new ideas on art also. So it's free of that, but it's nevertheless engaged with the issue, which is so important to understand. So for those that want to diminish the quality of the art piece, be careful, because these are all amazing artists, you know.
Yeah, this must have been a lot of work, and I'm really curious to get to see this.
Yeah,
Katrín, do you have? Yeah, okay. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that we started 4 years ago. So
wow,
that's like
okay. Katrín, any last words?
I have an ad, skjáauglýsingar, Nýrri stjórnarskrá.
Frábært. So I just want to thank you very much for coming to the show. We had Bogi Reynisson as our technician. My name is Margrét Pétursdóttir, and we thank Katrínu and Libiu very much for being with us today. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.